The decline of new artists. Over the past 30 years, how the Diddy era and hip-hop impacted the male balladeers and underappreciated legends. The music industry has undergone dramatic changes in the last 3 decades, from the rise of hip-hop as a cultural powerhouse to the decline in support for male balladeers and soul-driven R&B artists. As the music landscape shifted, many emerging artists who created deeply emotional and meaningful work struggled to break into mainstream success, especially compared to earlier generations of musicians. The impact of the Diddy era and the commercialization of hip-hop have also redefined what it means to be successful, leaving behind a wealth of talent that refused to conform to darker, more marketable narratives. This article explores the lack of new, long-lasting artists in the past 30 years, how hip-hop's commercialization impacted emerging talents like Kal Marshell, Kenyon Dixon, Tony Walk, Alex Eiley, Dijon and October, London, and how legendary artists like Regina Belle, Miki Howard, Martha Wash, Angela Winbush, and others were underappreciated for their significant contributions to music. The golden age of music and the diminishing space for male balladeers. In the 70s and 80s, music was brimming with male balladeers and soul artists who sang about love, relationships, and the deeper aspects of the human experience. Artists like Luther Vandross, Teddy Pendergrass, and Peabo Bryson shaped the R&B genre with their velvety voices and emotionally driven ballads. Their music wasn't just about hits, it was about building a legacy, creating timeless love songs that resonated deeply with listeners. Similarly, female artists like Regina Belle, Miki Howard, and Angela Winbush carried the torch with their powerful, soulful voices and impactful storytelling. However, as the 90s came around, the music industry began to shift. Largely due to the growing dominance of hip-hop, the focus moved away from the emotional depth of ballads and soul-driven R&B to the glamour, glitz, and street-smart narratives of commercialized hip-hop. This wasn't a bad thing. It brought hip-hop to the global stage. But it also created a market that increasingly favored stories of struggle, excess, and the depreciation of community and culture. Artists who didn't conform to this new narrative found themselves struggling for attention and airplay. The impact of the Diddy era and commercialized hip-hop. The Diddy era undeniably transformed hip-hop into a commercial juggernaut. Artists like the notorious Big Maze and Faith Evans found immense success by blending street tales with radio-friendly hooks. This era popularized a formula that made music about wealth, power, and overcoming hardships highly marketable. As hip-hop culture went mainstream, it began to dominate the space that once allowed for more diverse storytelling, including the rich emotional landscapes painted by male balladeers and soulful female vocalists. This shift made it challenging for new male balladeers and soul artists to find the same level of commercial success that their predecessors enjoyed. Artists like Kal Marshell, Kenyon Dixon, Dijon, Tony Walk, and October, London, all talented male balladeers of the current generation, find themselves operating in a landscape where mainstream airplay often favors music that thrives on darker, more confrontational themes. These artists, who create music rooted in love, vulnerability, and emotional depth, often struggle to gain the widespread recognition that earlier artists like Luther Vandross or Peabo Bryson achieved. The struggles of emerging male balladeers, Kal Marshell, Kenyon Dixon, and October, London. Kal Marshell's latest single, All Night Love, exemplifies this challenge. A smooth blend of millennial soul and heartfelt R&B. The song speaks to the kind of love and emotional connection that male balladeers have historically championed. Yet, despite its undeniable quality, Marshell, along with peers like Kenyon Dixon and October, London faces an uphill battle to break into a mainstream industry that no longer prioritizes this type of content. Similarly, Kenyon Dixon, with his lush, soulful sound, and deeply intimate lyrics, captures the essence of old-school R&B. But the industry's focus on commercially viable narratives often leaves him on the fringes of major radio play. October, London, whose music is reminiscent of the greats from the 70s and 80s, faces the same dilemma. While there's a market for soulful ballads, it's smaller and harder to access without the backing of major labels that cater to mainstream hip-hop and pop. These emerging artists are talented and innovative, but they represent a voice that the industry, in its current state, no longer knows how to properly elevate or support. Underappreciated legends, Regina Belle, Miki Howard, Angela Winbush, and more. The commercialization of hip-hop didn't just affect emerging talent, it also diminished the recognition of legendary artists who made significant contributions to R&B and soul. Artists like Regina Belle, Miki Howard, Martha Wash, Angela Winbush, and Melissa Morgan brought something invaluable to music: stories of love, power, and community. Their music was deeply connected to the emotional fabric of their listeners. Yet as the industry shifted, these artists were often pushed aside in favor of more marketable acts. Despite their talent and impact, these women never received the institutional support or legacy-building promotions afforded to their male counterparts in hip-hop or even in other music genres. The industry's decision to prioritize commercial success over cultural legacy has left the contributions of many of these legends underappreciated, even though their music continues to influence new generations of singers. Moving forward, the importance of supporting a diverse range of voices. If the music industry is to evolve in a meaningful way, it must find space for artists like Kal Marshell, Kenyon Dixon, and October London, who are carrying the torch for emotionally driven ballads and soul music. These artists represent a side of music that is rich, complex, and deeply rooted in the human experience, something that the current commercial model often overlooks. Moreover, it's crucial to acknowledge the contributions of legendary artists like Regina Belle and Miki Howard, who helped define the sound of previous generations but were never fully recognized for their impact. By supporting artists who create content that uplifts culture and community, rather than depreciating it, the industry can return to a place where diverse stories are celebrated. The future of music lies in its ability to honor the past while embracing the new. Kal Marshell's All Night. Love is more than just a song, it's a reminder that the depth and beauty of R&B balladeers are still alive and well. As fans, listeners, and industry leaders, we have the power to support these voices and ensure that the next generation of artists is given the same respect and recognition that the legends before them deserved. Conclusion: the decline of new, impactful artists over the past 30 years is directly tied to the rise of commercialized hip-hop and the industry's preference for darker, more marketable narratives. While hip-hop's influence is undeniable, it has come at the expense of male balladeers and soul artists who once dominated the airwaves with songs of love, connection, and vulnerability. Kal Marshell, Kenyon Dixon, October, London, and others are the torchbearers for a new generation of balladeers, and they deserve the recognition and support that previous legends received. It's time for the music industry to open its doors to a wider range of voices and stories, ensuring that the contributions of both emerging and established artists are celebrated for years to come.